Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello everyone and welcome back to The Liberation Effect. Today I'm talking to Megan. Megan has come because after going no contact is getting lots of flying monkey attacks and wanted some help and support in how to navigate those attacks, the no contact thing, and just general support and understanding. Megan, is that right? Have I summarised that properly?
You have, yeah.
Excellent. So if you were going to kind of sum up what it is you're looking for from our time together today, what is it that you want to leave here knowing?
I suppose it's more just having the validation of what I've gone through and how I'm feeling, and then also having some tools to be able to move forward when I do get those messages coming through, that I don't get triggered back into the self-doubt and spiraling into those negative thoughts for weeks or months on end.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds
Trying
like
to work through that.
lot that it's bringing up in you
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah,
Do you want to just give me a bit of a backstory about kind of how you've got to this place now of no contact and what the experience was?
I think a lot of it started after having children myself. It sort of brought up a lot of the feelings. I always knew my childhood wasn't great, but I don't have a lot of memories from it. It was more from probably teenager years and older.
Right.
And then after we had our firstborn son and he passed away at 6 months old, it became very much about how my mum wasn't coping and how she was struggling and how I could support her. And yeah, all of that. So then that sort of, it just didn't sit with me well for ages. Then we've had, they're on our third subsequent pregnancy since, and they're just not involved. They're just not interested. They don't reach out. They don't ask how I am. My mum did want to complain that I don't reach out to her and tell her how I'm feeling, so I did. And it was met with, only you know how to deal with it. Have fun picking names because everybody always has a say on it.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. So you lost a child, one of the most painful things a human being can go through, at 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And the response was how she was struggling.
Mm.
Then on subsequent pregnancies, no inquiry about you, your emotional state, your mental health, fears, anxieties.
Nope. Nothing, no.
All of those things. And the minimization to have fun picking names.
Yeah.
That is utterly revolting. It's just so dismissive and vile.
Yeah. So then last year, my eldest daughter, she was telling her cousin at Christmas that she doesn't have any grandparents.
Right.
Which both me and my partner felt really upset by, because she does, they just make no effort.
Right.
So she doesn't think she has any. So me purposely, I sent the messages trying to sort of set up every 3 months that either we'd go to them, they'd come to us, just to try and get a more regular contact.
Right.
There'd be nothing in between other than these meetings. I don't hear from them. They don't want to FaceTime. They don't even message to ask how they are. So then I invited them down at Christmas, and they said my mum said she was working. So they came down to ours in January, which was fine. And then I was going up there in April, and my partner couldn't make it. He was just busy with work. So I drove up on my own. I told them I was struggling to find accommodation for us for the nights. We changed the nights. And then on the day we went up, so I saw my dad for about half an hour on the Friday. Went to meet my sister for my nephew's birthday. and my mum didn't come to meet us because she said she was travelling back from wherever she'd been for the week. The next day came and went, and I went to their house, knocked on the door about 11 o'clock, and nobody answered. So I had to get the kids back in the car, drive around. Even though the car was there, they knew I was coming round. Nobody answered the door. I then got a phone call from my dad to say he was in bed. I didn't know where my mum was. She went out at 9 o'clock in the morning. She's not back yet. And then so I went round to my sister's, and it was all very laboured, trying to get them to come and see us. We suggested going to like a pub to get some lunch before we headed home. My dad said he didn't want to be in a pub buying alcohol. It was like, you don't have to buy alcohol. You can just sit there. You're there to see your grandkids. So we ended up having half an hour in Costa, to which my mum came. My dad didn't come. And even then, there was like little interaction with the kids. They didn't even offer to. She got my sister's children like drinks, biscuits, and stuff. Didn't offer anything for mine.
What?
Yeah, it's always been like that. And so then we left, went home, and within about an hour of being home, I had a message from my mum saying how she'd had a great time seeing us, and she was thinking for her 60th birthday, how we could all go away for a weekend and do this and do that. And I was just like, no, it's not happening. After how we were treated at the weekend and how little time you gave us, I'm not putting any of us through it just so you could put on Facebook how you've got this great family, and that's all it's ever been about.
Right, the image.
Even when we lost our son, one of the things she said that she struggled with was how we don't post anything on Facebook about it. I was like, what? Because then because she can't post anything on Facebook to get the victim response and
of course, yeah.
And I was like, but I don't want that. I did it 1 year, and I had people messaging me, and it was horrendous. Like, I didn't want to have people telling me how sorry they were, and people that I don't speak to knowing everything. It made it feel a lot worse than what it needed to be. Whereas,
I just want to validate, you do not need to justify how you cope with grief of the loss of a child. That is so personal and private and individual. And I absolutely see that, actually. The idea of posting it on Facebook, if you've got people on there that are not like regularly in contact with you, and they see this thing, for them it's not as there's a danger of it becoming kind of gossip almost, isn't there? And that's horrible. And I don't mean that as, I don't want to cast aspersions, but that idea that if you're not in it, seeing the real impact of it, it can be a bit throwaway almost, can't it?
Yeah.
And, So I totally see that. So she was annoyed because she couldn't post it all over Facebook and get lots of sympathy. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah. So I said that we wouldn't be, because she wanted us to help me and my sister to plan something for where to go. And I was like, I won't be involved in planning anything. Also, my son passed away the day before her birthday.
Right.
So I knew she'd be wanting to plan to do something around that sort of time. And I was just like, it's not a time that I want to be going around doing things. I get it, it's your 60th birthday, but one, you've not even been there for me for the last 5 years when I have needed you. I couldn't even get a message from you on his anniversaries, let alone anything else. And then that's when it just turned into, it always becomes like an attack of everything that happened when I was a child and how she wasn't there. And I try and say, well, yes, that happened, but that's not what I'm trying to get to with this. What I'm trying to say is how you are now, how you've been the last 10, 15, 20 years. I get you had it difficult when we were younger. My dad left a few times when we were younger. And I know that must have been really difficult for her, like being a single parent. She had two young children. But then it's, what about now? You're with him, you're in a happy relationship, supposedly,
Mm.
and you still make zero effort for me or with me or my children, but yet expect us to do everything for you.
So I'm just really horrified that you drove to see them. How far away are they? So how
2
long?
hours.
So a 2-hour drive with 3 children. Is that right?
Two.
2
'Cause I'm
children.
currently pregnant
Oh,
at the minute.
currently pregnant. Sorry. And
Okay.
so 2 children, 2-hour drive, booked accommodation. So you paid for accommodation.
We weren't invited to stay.
I was just wondering that. I was just thinking, I wonder
No.
if it was a choice not to stay in their house, or whether that was
It was, but it wasn't offered either as an
option.
Yeah, because even like when I said that we were struggling to find accommodation, you'd think they'd
Yes.
say,
Why
don't you just stay here?
So, and they've got space, like they'd have had space for you 3 to stay? Okay.
Yeah.
So no really good reason. Not in a like studio bedsit type scenario.
No.
Right, okay. So you've driven 2 hours with 2 children on your own.
Yeah.
To visit. And it's all prearranged to the point where you've, negotiated dates because things have had to change.
Yeah.
And on your arrival, instead of coming to see you, I've driven back from work and I'm too tired, or
Yeah. She'd been away for the week on holiday.
on holiday, so not for work.
No. She's on holiday in like Devon or somewhere down south.
Right.
So she'd been away on her own for a week. Knew we were coming back on the Friday. We were coming up on the Friday and only staying the one night. And set off, so she apparently didn't get back till about 9 o'clock. But then the next day when we were in Costa, said she didn't want to come because she thought she might have to babysit.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So the child you've complained about not seeing, is that right? And that you're complaining that you don't have a relationship with, turns up with the 2 children, having arranged it and pre-arranged it. So no surprises, nothing unexpected. And instead of just making sure you're there, back and around for when they arrive and excited to see them, and what time are you getting there so I can come and visit? What time are you okay with me? Shall we all go out for dinner? Shall we do this? Shall we do that? Would you like to come here for dinner? Would you even like to stay in the house? I'm not driving back early enough from my holiday in Devon or wherever, and then actually reveals that it's because she didn't want to babysit, but is so dramatically impacted by the loss of your son.
Yeah, exactly this.
Right. Megan, I want to know why you need validating. What is it that you struggle with?
I think because from being young, whenever anything was said and done, it was always, my dad would always say, you know what she's like, you know what she's been through, she's had a difficult childhood. And so it's always been ingrained in me that it's me rather than that it could be her, or even when I can see it, because nobody else actually will stand up to her, I do end up with that self-doubt and think, am I overreacting? I think a lot of the time I think I'm overreacting and I should just let it slide, and maybe I should have messaged her to say we'll be here for this time, or rather than communicating with my sister or my dad, because they were the ones that messaged me and my mum didn't. So then I start to sort of doubt myself and think, could I have done more? Should I have done this? Should I have done anything else?
So you're sort of self-gaslighting in that. Okay. And so dad's enabling through childhood. He enabled her behavior. He never held her accountable. And so hearing that, what she's like, you have to essentially excuse her behavior because she's had a difficult childhood.
Yeah.
And yet is making your childhood very difficult. Okay. And it sounds a bit like your sister might be a golden child in the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. And what role would you put yourself into?
Scapegoat. I mean, I've definitely been, well, I think scapegoat. I don't know. I think a lot of it is when I started listening to like your other podcasts and stuff, I started listening to like the ones about discarding. And I feel like I moved away 15 years ago, and I don't know whether then she sort of, in her head, that was it. She discarded me because she didn't need me anymore. I wasn't there as a... But then she still will dip in and out to sort of get a rise from me.
Get a rise from you. That's interesting.
I do feel.
So go on.
Yeah, she knows that I'm the only one that will sort of give her that. Whereas my sister's very much like my dad, is in anything for an easy life. We'll just say what we've got to, like, do what we've got to do just to try and keep everything like calm as such. Even when she does do whatever to anybody else. Whereas she knows that I'll bite my tongue for so long, and then I end up saying something, and then everything kicks off. But then my dad's usually the one that gets in touch and will say the whole, you know what she's been through, be the bigger person, all that sort of stuff. And then it all just gets sort of brushed under the carpet. Everything's forgotten about until 6 months, a year, 2 years later. And my point is, after being there with my kids and seeing them do that to them, it brought a lot back for how she does that to me. And I was just like, I'm not putting them through that. I've worked with it for too many years as it is. But as soon as you impact them, and like you said, like, she claims how losing our son was so devastating for her, but yet she makes zero effort for the ones that she's now got there in her life.
And it just makes no logical sense, does it?
Yeah.
That your grandchild dies, and then you make, sorry for language, but fuck all effort with your new grandchildren that have come along and are, one would think, surely more precious because of that loss.
Yeah.
It's utterly devastating for you. And I do want to validate that, because it is, the idea that you are in any way responsible for the way she's behaved towards you is not true. And it sounds like you are used as a placeholder for anger and self-loathing, and, that kind of, I can get a fight out of you if I want one. And I also really, really, really want to honour and acknowledge you protecting your children from it. The road we have to walk down to get to that place is such a difficult one. And, I've talked about this so many times around how people minimize and shame and dismiss how disruptive and difficult and painful it is to go no contact.
Yeah.
And to protect your children, to deny them relationships with grandparents, because we live in this idea that they're going to have a different relationship, that they will not be treated the way we were. And to get to the place where we have to protect them from the toxic parent is an intensely painful one, and a very courageous one too. It takes a huge strength of character. So I want to honour that for you, that protecting them is just the greatest thing you can do as a parent, and not allow them to experience that. I wondered if you ever felt like the invisible child too.
Yeah.
Right.
I know I don't remember much from being a child. And when I do, there's not much where she's involved in it. I do remember getting upset once, being like really emotional, thinking and like questioning whether I was adopted or anything, because I just felt that I didn't fit in. And I wasn't treated the same as my sisters. And I was probably only 8 or 9. But I just knew I wasn't treated the same. I wasn't, like, it would come to my sister's birthday and she'd have like a party with friends, even if it was just at the house. But my birthday is New Year's Eve. So I was always told people would come to a party then because it's in between Christmas and New Year. My dad was in a band, so he was always working on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve, sorry. So we'd either be out watching him doing that and traveling for the day, or I just didn't like.
You weren't celebrated.
No.
But
So,
did
like,
it,
now,
so nothing even like in the like couple of weeks after? Because there's a child in one of my children's classes who is a New Year's Eve baby, and I had even a friend who was a New Year's Eve baby when I was growing up, and their party was just a couple of weeks later when we'd all gone back to school. But you didn't, nothing like that?
No, nothing.
That's awful. And I know people are going to go, oh my God, you make not.
I know, and that's the thing, and I think that's where I struggle as in. I feel like sometimes I'm sitting in that victimhood of making it all about me again and all this sort of stuff, which is because that's what she does. So I think I'm conscious of not sitting in that victim space and being, because I don't want to be anything like her. And she's always used the whole, you don't know what I've been through, I had a difficult childhood, your dad left us, etc., etc. I'm conscious that I don't want to be sat with because obviously we lost our child. I don't want to be sat in that victim space of nobody's there for me, nobody does anything for me, when actually I don't actually ask for, I don't ask for much. It's the bare minimum, and they can't even do the bare minimum.
There's a very, very, very big difference between weaponizing the victim space and being a victim of something. And the difference is you're not allowed to hold me accountable because I have been through X, Y, Z.
Okay.
Right? And this really awful thing happened to me. I'm doing the best I can to cope with it. You know, maybe I could have some grace, but
yeah,
I'm still accountable for how I behave and how I treat other people. Right?
Yeah.
But it's not when your mother is saying, I had a difficult childhood. I mean, the freaking irony of, I had a difficult childhood, you don't understand, or you can't complain, or you can't do this, you can't do that. Meanwhile, not looking at how that is impacting you and giving you, I mean, I just can't quite get around my head around that logic of your father even enabling it too, and that being so bloody painful as well. This idea that he has colluded with her behavior so much and continues from what your application said, and the idea that you feeling bad about what's happened to you being anything like what she's doing is not true. People struggle with this a lot, obviously, for having had similar experiences, and the reason being that they don't want to be like that. They don't want to weaponize it. They don't want to be in that self-pity space. And there are times when we do it, and as a result of trauma, where we do sit there and go, well, don't reject me, don't criticize me, don't say I'm anything less than perfect, because that will confirm all the things I've been taught about myself, and I'm too scared to accept those things as, being imperfect means total annihilation, and therefore I can resist that. I can be defensive to it. So there is a place where we can do that, but where we want to get it to be in terms of a healthy space is the acknowledgement of our own experience. We're just not using it to justify being a dick, right?
Yeah.
That is that simple, that you're either accountable or not accountable. And if you are using trauma to not be accountable, then you are weaponizing the victim space. And you're not describing that to me.
No. But But when I was speaking to my partner about it a while back, he said we could quite easily go out and he could go start a fight and say, and
Yeah.
that's nothing. But he doesn't, because it's not that, you can't just excuse it. It doesn't make it okay. And even when he says that, I understand it, but it's still in my head trying to convince myself that, I think that's it. Like I try and almost intellectualize everything and make a reason for it, rather than actually just saying it's rubbish, it's crap. Like,
Why do you think
and
that
just
might
sitting
be?
with that feeling. Pardon?
Why do you think that might be? That you intellectualize it?
Probably because I think if I can find a reason, then I can sort of explain it all.
Explain what to who, do you think?
To myself, why I was treated differently.
What's happening now for you? What's happening? What's coming up?
I don't know. I think if there's if I felt like there was a reason, I'd feel like it wasn't just me. It wasn't just I'm sort of unlovable. I'm sort of, and that's why they make no effort. That's why they don't do anything. There's actually a reason behind it, rather than sometimes people are just not nice people, and I don't know, that is a reason in itself. But
yeah. What's difficult about that?
I don't know.
There's something about accepting there's no hope.
Yeah, maybe.
There's also that thing about not having power. If I can find a reason, then I can maybe fix it.
Yeah.
If I can understand it, I might be able to tolerate it.
Yeah.
If I can explain it, it will be resolvable. I'll be able to change things. And kind of sitting in the space of maybe she's just not able to love you the way you need to be loved.
Yeah.
Is intensely painful. But it's also still not about you.
Yeah. I mean, the more, like, when I speak to family members, and the more I hear about things she's either done to other people, or when they'll tell me things that happened that I don't remember, I just think I think you're just not a nice person. Like, if you weren't my mum, I wouldn't actually want you in my life anyway, and I wouldn't want anything to do with you. Like, there's nothing about you that makes me think you're actually a nice person. But then it's still because it's your mum, and it's the whole can't think of the word. But how it's everything's sort of idolized, isn't it, with the parents, and you've got to sort of respect them. And
there's like social conditioning of pedestaling parents.
Yeah.
That they're infallible. And then, of course, the child has to assume it's them in order to survive. Like, it's literally, I was writing a course on shame. You know, I've got this membership called The Hub, and next month or whenever this, I don't even know when this will come out, but in May, the course is on shame. And there's a module on why we develop kind of the shame responses and the toxic shame and stuff. And it literally is just that a child cannot comprehend that their parent is fallible and incapable of loving and nurturing and being safe, and therefore has to believe that they are the problem to survive it. If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye. They don't know that it's not them. All they hear is, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. And they cannot compute the idea that the parent is the problem.
No.
They haven't got that level of insight. Go
No.
on. What were you going to say?
I don't know. It's just like, even when I sit and think about the things that's been said or done over the years, like, as I think about it, I think it's not okay. Like, I'd never put my children through that. I'd never speak to them like that, treat them like that, or But I still doubt myself and gaslight myself into thinking, well, maybe it was because you were difficult, or maybe it's because you were X, Y, Z. Do you know, you tried to, yeah. I mean, she told me once that one of the reasons she struggled was because when I was 3, my dad left us, and I went running after him down the street crying,
Right.
and she held it against me
What?
from then. And then whenever I bring it up after that, it's, oh, you can't let go of it. You always bring that up. And I'm like, it's quite a big thing to say to somebody.
What age were you when she said that to you?
Probably early teens.
So when you were 3 years old and your dad left, you ran after him crying.
Mm-hmm.
And her response was to see that as a personal rejection of her.
Yeah.
And then to punish you for it.
Yeah.
Instead of telling, I'm so sorry, it's so horrid and I'm so sad for you.
Yeah.
What?
Which,
the
I
fuck?
mean, my partner goes to work and my daughter will run out crying after him, like,
Yeah.
just let alone thinking they're not coming back and all that sort of side of it. But yeah, there's so much stuff that I know is her, and it's her, and like people, like my family members have said that she's jealous of me and all this sort of stuff, and I sort, part of me feels like I get people being jealous or whatever, or for whatever reason. Like she has no idea of what my life is like anyway to be jealous. She's just got this idea of what she thinks.
So a totally projected image onto you, right?
Because she has no involvement in my life, so she has no idea of what my life is even looks like. I'm still like, it's still your daughter. It's still, surely you want them to have better for you. Surely you want them to go out and get qualifications and do this. And like, I had my graduation from college, and she booked the wrong day off work, so she didn't come down. So nobody could come. So none of the other family came down either.
So hang on. So she booked the wrong day off work, didn't rearrange it, and then because she wasn't going, nobody else came either?
No.
Why?
There was never a reason. It just didn't. Nobody came down.
Nobody else came?
No.
To your graduation because she wasn't going? So she's controlling everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to go back to the intellectualization, because it seemed like that touched something very deep when we were talking about it. Now, all the boundaries are yours. You can say, I don't want to talk about it. I'll put this out there, and then you can respond or not respond. We can move on. It's not I don't want to cause any harm. One of the reasons we intellectualize is simply to avoid pain. And as soon as I started picking at that, it triggered a huge well of pain. Yeah. And so I suppose that's what I wanted to notice to you. One of the reasons you might be doing it is to avoid feeling the feeling that's underneath it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's probably by me trying to focus on that side of it, it stops me from actually feeling what I need to feel, and just being upset or being disappointed or sitting in the feeling because it hurts. I can just think, oh, she booked the wrong day of work, it is what it is, and my dad was probably busy, and just try to make excuses in my head.
Yeah. You justify it for them.
Yeah.
Instead of, because I wonder what happened when you did show that you were upset or angry as a child, if you remember any occasions.
I don't really remember.
What about as a teen? Like, even your birthday, like if you complained?
I'd be told I was ungrateful or...
Right.
Yeah, I'd be sort of, I'd either get shouted back at by my mum, and then my dad would then take up, like I'd get silent treatment from her, and then my dad would then come and talk to me and try to sort of pacify me a bit and just sort of smooth the situation over. Yeah.
So your emotional responses were met with anger, shaming, and silent treatment. How did that used to make you feel?
Not great.
Not great.
So in the end, I just stopped.
Well, yeah, because If you were going to use an emotional word to describe not great, what would it be, do you think?
Can't think.
Can I give you a list and then you can tell me whether any of them hit?
Yeah.
So I imagine a child that is responded to in that way when they express their feeling would feel shame because they'd feel judged. They would feel frustrated, powerless, hopeless, invisible. They'd feel, maybe even feel like physically sick as a response to it too. Unwanted, unloved, like morally reprehensible. I don't think that's really a feeling word, but it's like a, maybe a descriptive feeling. Any of those hitting? Any of those?
Yeah. The shame, the frustration. I know up until, it's strange, I didn't realise I was having them until I stopped having them. But I was having sort of nightmares where it'd be around the time of either if I was visiting them or if they were visiting us. It'd be like a family situation where we'd all be in the house and then I'd end up just like screaming and venting and getting everything out. And then it'd be met with almost like a calmness, as though like I was the one that was sort of too angry or too anything. But then after I went no contact last year, I've stopped having them. It's that I used to have them like and it's not until I stopped having them that I realised I wasn't having them anymore.
Yeah, got you. So they were, there's you verbalising all the hurt and anger and upset.
Yeah.
And then being met with stonewalling, like silence.
Yeah, or like laughing or like,
so
it was
shame.
really strange. But yeah, I don't know. I just think
it's almost though there's a dream theory, I think it's Jung, that we are all parts we are every player in the dream. So every person or everything in the dream represents a part of us.
Yeah.
But it's almost, and this is a bit of a leap, so by all means say, oh no, Helen, that's absolutely not right. I will not be in any way bothered at all. But it almost sounds like how you respond to your emotions now, to blank them, to avoid them, to ignore them, to pretend they're not there. Because it sounds like you stonewall yourself. Yeah. So you bottle it all up and you try and pretend it's not there. Yeah. How did you feel about letting me see a bit of emotion then, earlier when we were talking about intellectualizing?
Didn't like it.
No. So what emotion might that have been?
Shame, maybe.
Shame, embarrassed?
Yeah, embarrassed.
Do you feel emotion when you're on your own?
Yeah.
How does that go for you? Do you allow it?
Yeah, I do allow it. Not very often, but I will allow it, and I will have like a good cry and things, but I try not to. Yeah, I wouldn't let many people see it.
Anybody at all?
My partner will.
Okay. And so how do you feel when they see it, when your partner sees it?
Probably the same, to some extent.
When you say same, you mean the shame?
Yeah. And the embarrassment. It's sort of, I find a lot of the time I get upset when I'm really frustrated and I can't get, if I'm angry or frustrated, I end up crying, and then I get more annoyed at myself for being upset because I don't want to be upset, but I just can't verbalise what I need to get out.
Do you know, there is going to be 4 million comments. Look at my ego, 4 million comments. I've got that many listeners, But there's going to be so many people going, oh my God, that is exactly what happens to me. I get angry and I get up and I start crying, and it's so annoying because I can't then speak. And it's, what does it feel like when that happens?
I feel that's probably how, like when I was younger, I probably did speak up, and then I'd get to the point where I'd get shouted at back down. So I'd end up internalizing everything and then just crying and getting upset rather than actually just speaking what I need to. And now I think I struggle because I wasn't allowed to really speak up. When I do speak up, I bottle it up for so long that I just blow rather than it actually always being like constructive or worded correctly. It's just word vomit of emotion, rather than actually being like in a cohesive sort of, and actually getting my points across properly, it ends up being just, everything spilling out.
So it's like the bottle of pop thing where you've like held it in and then shaken it and then suddenly it goes kaboom instead of just like letting the air out really gently, which is exactly why we start crying, because we've held it down. But also that our expression of anger and frustration in the past, if that's been a thing that has been then shamed, humiliated, ignored, punished, all of those horrible things, then we're also in the middle of a massive threat trigger, because we're sharing our vulnerability and it's terrifying. And when we're scared, we cry. Like it's just what we do. When we're happy, we cry. It's interesting. People often just sort of forget about the fact that any extreme emotion can provoke tears.
Yeah.
Right? Happiness, sadness, grief, fear, anger, all bring tears.
Yeah.
They're different. They're different types of tears. They also come from different parts of your eye. They also have different structures. It's amazing, actually. There's some amazing research on it if you want to go down that ADHD rabbit hole. But yeah, dear me. But the idea that you've held it in and it's got to this huge point where you're all the emotion is trying to come out at once. But if you had just sort of said it in the moment as it happened, or whenever you noticed it, it would have been a lot more manageable for you. Yeah.
But
go on.
I almost feel like I was never allowed to say, like when it comes, if it was anything to say about her, we were never allowed to actually say anything either, even if it was just something small that would happen. We wouldn't be allowed to say anything because then you just didn't know how she was going to react.
No. And I notice that there's a real theme all the way through our conversation of every time you expressed anything, it was met with her emotions are more important than yours.
Yeah.
So then we go to you lose your son and her emotions are more important than yours.
Yeah.
So you've learned that your emotions are just not important. Because not only is she telling you that, you've got your father reinforcing it constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're always prioritizing other people's feelings.
Yeah.
Also, I'm intrigued to know, in terms of your son, how often do you talk about him?
Quite a lot.
Yeah? With who? With everybody or with...
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. So no kind of managing people's feelings around the loss of him. Good.
No.
That I'm surprised, I've got to admit. What happened to make that okay for you to do?
To talk about him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think I didn't talk about him at first because it was too raw. But then actually I used to find it was hard. I used to feel worse for not talking about him. Like we'd go to baby groups and I'd get oh, is this your first baby? And then I'd say, yeah, just to try and ease the situation. But then I'd spend weeks feeling guilty because I felt like I was not honouring him. And then it got to the point where I was just like, I'm not doing this to myself, because why am I putting myself through this to make other people feel comfortable?
Amazing.
So I stopped doing it. But so yeah, now I just talk. As long as I think there's certain times, like around anniversaries and birthdays and stuff, that I get more emotional, so I know it's harder to talk about him. But yeah, I'd rather talk about him than not.
Okay. I'm really, really glad to hear that. Like, I'm genuinely thrilled, because I think it is so important to keep our loved ones alive by talking about them. There is some, that thing of, I mean, I don't know if you've heard me talk about it before, but when somebody tells me they've lost somebody, I always sort of say, I'd love to know a story about them. Because I think there's something so beautiful about being able to give space for that,
Yeah.
So I wonder then, Out of interest, you being able to kind of, or you putting that boundary of I'm not making people more comfortable anymore.
Yeah.
Why
I
are you
knew this was
laughing?
coming.
What,
As
go
soon
on.
as I said it, I thought, yeah,
what do you think I'm going to ask?
how I can put the boundary there to make other people, not to make myself feel comfortable, but not other people, but I can't do it around my mum.
No, that wasn't it, actually.
Oh,
No.
fair enough.
But it's a good question, but maybe I'd get there eventually. But no, that wasn't what I was going to ask. What I was actually going to ask was, when you put that boundary in, how did that then impact your behavior with other people and other emotions? So, as in, was there any correlation between you going, I'm not making people feel comfortable about my son's death anymore, and I'm not tolerating this behavior from them anymore?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Probably a similar sort of time. Because it was probably about a year or so in. And it was on his second anniversary of him passing. My mum and sister came down like a week or two after. And she was telling me how she can't celebrate her birthday anymore because she knows what happens. And I said, you died the day before your birthday.
Fucking God.
And how do you think I cope the rest of the year? Like, it's not just one day. And then after that, I brought up, because she'd put a comment on Facebook to say how with the love and August is a difficult month for her and the family, but with the love and support of her family and friends, she got through it. Meanwhile, I'd heard nothing from her at all on his anniversary. So I brought that up, and she said, yeah, it was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment, really, because nobody got in touch with me. I was like, why would they be getting in touch with you? And you didn't reach out to me either.
The world really revolves around her.
Yeah, it really does.
This is it's just mind-boggling that people are enabling this, that your father is enabling this.
So my sister's told me that she sees everything and she knows, but she can't say anything because she knows that they'll try and cut her out, and she needs them.
Why?
Because financially, and she depends on them quite a lot with like childcare and stuff like that. And
But
like they take her kids away on holiday. They'll take them out on days out. They'll do X, Y, Z with them.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's hard because that's how it was with my sister growing up, where she'd get better treatment than what I would. And my mum said to me, I can't remember when, years ago, that she always thought that I was my dad's favourite. So she made my sister her favourite and would do stuff for her. But then my dad, like I say, left quite a few times. So a lot of time he wasn't around. But my sister was still her favourite, and it was like clear.
So your mum, she said to you,
yeah,
I don't know really what to say to it, because I'm just so horrified that she would tell you so overtly. I mean, she really tells on herself.
Yeah.
I do treat my other child better than you because I decided you were going to be your father's favourite. Meanwhile, though, I'm punishing you for being close to him or wanting to be with him.
Yeah.
And trying to sabotage that relationship too.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to my original thing about wanting validation, and the self-gaslighting, and what it then leads me to come to, and I don't mean that flippantly, because it really isn't flippant. I genuinely understand why, when you're in it, it's all like, it must be me, I must be the problem. I obviously understand that. The thing that I'm coming to is, how does it help you to believe that you might be the problem?
Maybe because then I do feel like there is some way of fixing it if there is. So there could be a workaround where we are having that family relationship or whatever, but it's hard because I know deep down she's not capable of it and it's not going to happen. because even now, when I had that discussion with her before I went no contact, like it was all, you don't know what I've been through and everything else, all that. So she's still sort of taking no accountability. She's still putting it on me, saying I've always had a deep hatred for her and all this sort of stuff, where she's still putting it back on me. So I still feel like, is it something that I need to try and work around so that I can have that relationship and so that my children get their grandparents involved, even though I don't want them because the way they are, I know it's not healthy for them to have involvement with them. But because I see that she can have that relationship with my sister and her children and other people, that I sort of feel like, well, is it me? Is it, do I just need to learn to just put up and shut up as such? And I can't.
No, and reasonably so.
Yeah.
Because what I hear is the intellectualizing again of, if I can make it my fault, I can fix it. If I can, or if I accept what she says. There was a moment there where you grabbed your head like this. You said, did you notice did you get a pain in your head or something?
No.
Damn it, I forget what you actually said. The words were, but it was when you were talking about that she said that you'd always had a deep hatred for her.
Yeah.
And it makes me think maybe I could be, and it.
Yeah. Because then I do think, well, have I? But then at the same time, I don't feel like I have, but then I've also not been shown any like love or like, I don't remember having like, me and my children will sit and have cuddles like most days on the sofa, and I don't remember actually cuddling her at all through my childhood, let alone. Yeah, and it's just, I just don't feel like I've ever felt love from her as such.
That idea that you had a deep hatred for her, is a projection, I would argue. That a child doesn't hate their parent, even when they're abusing them. I mean, we see children being removed from sexually abusive parents, not wanting to because they are attached and they don't want to lose that parent.
Yeah.
Right? Children do not hate their parents. They fear them, but they are still bonded to them. Even if they don't like them, they will still be bonded to them. So the idea that you had a deep hatred for her is so flawed in so many ways and concepts of psychology, child development, and all of those things, and evidenced stuff, And I'm not just talking attachment theory, I'm talking loads of different ways that we see that children respond to the adult, the main primary caregiver. The idea that you had any kind of hatred for her, other than, and there is a caveat, what is entirely appropriate for autonomy-seeking behavior, as in, I think you've got children, you know what it's like when you say, no, you can't have chocolate. I hate you, naturally, because they feel powerless and angry. And so they do the thing. They repel you. That is not actually about us at all. They, that, and even if it was, the thing to look at is why. Why does my child not like me? What is it that I've done to create this environment?
Yeah.
Right? What I hear is you looking for reasons and answers and explanations to almost make it acceptable.
Probably.
Yeah. Or
nah. Yeah.
You're allowed, and I don't want to be like you're allowed to, but you can absolutely say no, Helen. That's not right. I'm not.
No, I think you are probably right. As in, if I can almost excuse it or find a reason for it, it sort of makes more sense to me, rather than just being, for whatever reason, my mum just wasn't capable of being the mum that I needed or loving me or whatever.
And yet she could do it for your sister.
Yeah. I think that's a hard thing as well. Like, at the minute I've got family members, like she's been helping out with my grandma who's been sick and my uncle that was like had a bike accident, and she's been like really hands-on helping out, and she helps out with my sister a lot and stuff. And I think seeing that, and everybody else can see that she's doing all this good work, even though in my head I know she's doing that for a reason, as in she's waiting for the paycheck from my grandma, or
Right.
do you know, as in I don't believe she does anything out of the kindness of her heart. There's
I
always a
would
reason
agree.
for it.
I would like, what is the gain? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but everybody else is saying, "Oh, she's doing really well. She's doing this. And to me, it just feels like another kick in the teeth that she can do it when she wants to. Yes, it's for a reason in her benefit, but she chooses not to be there for me and my children."
Okay. Let me offer you a different insight into that. Well, no, let me ask you a question first.
Mhm.
Would you describe yourself? No, how would you describe yourself in terms of autonomy, independence, dependence, and all that sort of thing?
I'm probably too independent, as in I won't ask for help. I'd rather, even sometimes with my partner, I'll just try and do stuff on my, like, just to get it done rather than asking for help. Because I just feel like I've always had to do it that way. I've always had to be the one that sorted things out. I've always had to be.
Okay.
So I tend not to ask for help a lot of stuff. So I'm probably too independent, but then
Okay.
I'm also awful at making decisions. I don't trust my own. I'm too independent, but I don't trust my own judgment as well.
Okay.
And I can't make decisions.
Interesting. We'll come back to that. But independent, so everybody that you've described that she's being good to are dependent. You said your sister is very dependent on her. And so what we might be hearing there is some hero syndrome, which is I look good because I'm helping everybody, and some anger because you won't allow her to do that.
Yeah.
So if you think about a 3-year-old child that's, no, mummy, I do it myself. Like I do it, right?
Yeah.
How pissed off will she be that you didn't allow her to helicopter her, maybe? And then if that's traversed through life.
Yeah.
Sound maybe familiar? Or
maybe, yeah.
So those people that she does help, if there's money involved, there's something in that. But the gain of how visible it is.
Yeah.
Right? Let's compare for a moment you and your sister's situations. So when she's helping and supporting your sister, it's in terms of childcare and days out and holidays for the children, taking them away and doing all that sort of stuff. So very, very visible support, right? Bumping into friends at the garden centre when they've taken the children to have a look at the fish or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making up. But I'd be interested to know where they actually take the children and whether it is places they would be seen. Because
a lot of the time they tend to take them to the pub. So it's
to the pub. But your dad didn't want to go to the pub because of alcohol.
Yeah.
But wait, hang on. No, this does not compute. There's no logic.
No, it doesn't.
So he wouldn't come to the pub with you because of alcohol. But when they take the children out, they're taking them to the pub.
Yeah.
And what are the children? What is there, like a soft play, or is there like what's?
No. They just sort of expect them to just sit there, and then they get annoyed that the children get bored and frustrated and don't want to be there. So then they get annoyed that they start acting up, and then
So your sister's putting them in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole. Maybe that's a different episode, but okay.
But, there's a lot there too. But she puts it with it because they help her out.
At what cost? Is it right? But okay, so they're doing this support very visibly, but any support, because you're so far away from them, that they gave you would be invisible. What gain could they get from it?
Yeah.
And we only need to look at how she has behaved around your son's death, that we are able to see that when she is not allowed to get public recognition or reward, gain, she's angry about it. She wants it. She wants people to, give her the accolades and praise and things for being such a supportive granny or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm coming back then to the need to understand things. And if you can understand it, maybe it makes it kind of acceptable, or you can fix it, or you could adapt, or you could just be enough so that she would be able to just show you some of that kindness.
Yeah.
And I suppose maybe I could say to you, well, if you do this, 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 and this, you could be in relationship with her and it would be okay. And she would be able to give you some of what you're looking for. But the cost of that is going to be an erosion of yourself, the loss of yourself in that too. It'll mean silencing yourself, and it'll mean never saying how anything felt. And then I wonder then, if you were to understand it, would it make it hurt any less?
I'm not sure. Probably not. It's still the same, isn't it? It's still, I think, just by trying to understand and explain it, I'm probably just prolonging the inevitable of how I'm going to feel, but putting it off as well.
So how will it feel to let go of the need to understand?
Probably be a big relief, but I think I'd have to sit with a lot of hurt and go through it all.
There's fear there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear the fear. I can see it. You seem fearful. What's the fear?
I think in the acceptance that it almost can't be fixed.
So what do you lose if you let go of the need to understand?
I suppose it's the it's accepting that it's never going to be, you're never going to have that family dynamic. You're not going to have that relationship that you want. But I suppose I've never had it either. It's not like I can be getting anything back as such. It'd just be, it's that idea of what a family relationship should be and that we'd have, and all of that side of it.
So if I let go of the need to understand, I can't fix it for one, but I also have to let go of the dream of having the busy Christmas dinner and everyone being like having fun and laughing and close, and I've got resources and support and kindness, and I let go of that too. And life looks different to what I was told it would be. You mentioned earlier about when you were about 8 or 9, wondering if you were adopted.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how many people, well, so many people have said this to me, that I named it Matilda syndrome, the idea that we're born into the wrong family, that we don't fit in, that everyone's so completely different. We're like, what happened? I must have been swapped at birth. And there's a fantasy that happens. And when I've talked about this before, people who are adopted have found it tricky because often, obviously, with adoption can come a huge amount of trauma. And this is not to deny that in any way, shape or form. But the child who is in this situation fantasizes about their real family, a bit like Annie, who kind of goes, maybe he's rich, maybe, that kind of idea that they're this painted picture, or they're a king and a queen, or a prince and a princess who had to leave you while they went on a mission, or some story. I mean, that's probably integrated from hearing fairy tales as a child. And the loss, that what you're noticing at 8 or 9 is, I don't belong here. I don't fit in. I'm being made to feel different, and it's painful. So I'm going to create an imaginary scenario that makes that feel better. And it's almost as though when we're looking for answers and trying to understand, we're still trying to get to the imaginary scenario because it soothes us to have it.
Yeah.
That the reality of this situation is too much to bear.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the fear that actually it's my fault, that I am the problem,
Yeah.
that I was unlovable, which is why they treated me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you, when you look at your children, even in their most flawed moments, do you ever look at them and think, you're not lovable?
No.
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 In the slightest. What feeling came up then when I said that?
It just, like, it's just beyond belief that you could even think that. Like, yes, they're difficult. Yes, they have tantrums. Yes, they have whatever, but they're still, you still love them more than anything. You still do anything for them, do you know?
Yeah.
So that it feels like alien to me that you could feel like that about your child, but clearly she did, and that's where I think I struggled because, I just think I don't get how you could, I don't understand how you could feel like that and how you could feel like that about one and not the other as well, which I think is why I probably feel more, maybe it is me, because she's not like that with my sister.
Right. Let's look at that.
Hmm?
Let's look at that for a moment.
Yeah.
That she could so overtly favour your sister, provide all the love, support. I'm really intrigued because part of me is going, she won't have been doing that. She'll have been smothering her or intruding and enmeshing her and gilding her, or, you know, so it won't have been healthy in any way, shape or form. And it clearly isn't now because she's, you know, thinking about what a healthy grandparent would do. Let me ask you, if your children have children and you're there to help out with those kids, would you take them to the pub and sit in the pub all day? No. What would you do?
You'd take them to the park. You'd take them anywhere that they'd want to go, that they'd have fun doing, rather than it's about what she wants to do or where she wants to go and what she wants to do.
So, exactly. So, are you the oldest? So, I don't know. There's part of me is like, why did you even ask, Helen? Like, it's so obvious. You're the trailblazer. Scapegoats always are. They're the trailblazers. They're the ones that see things that are wrong and they speak up and out and against them. And the reason that they're so often oldest girls is because boys are idolized, and some, you know, there's the whole patriarchy of if you have a boy and blah, blah, blah. But on top of that, the girl, the oldest firstborn girl, gets this treatment, speaks out against it, and then any children after them witness what happens when they speak up, when the oldest speaks up. And so they don't. They learn their way to survive is to keep quiet and just comply.
Which is what my sister does.
There you are.
My sister, because they tell me as well recently that mum used to say to her when she was younger, how can two children from the same parents have such different reactions and lives? She's clearly lying. And she used to say that to her all the time. So it's almost like she was setting up that from being young, she was. That it's my fault.
So she smear campaigned you from birth, and she then triangulated you against your sister and your father, right? And your father is now doing it still again. We haven't even got on to his flying monkey messages, and we're going to. But the idea that she was putting this divide between you, that she was casting you as the villain, you literally were scapegoated. You were holding all the sins of the family, all the bad things, and being sent into exile. And now here you are. And the only thing that I could ever say, is that the grief that you need to process around that is so big, and it's possibly made or compounded by the fact that you have lost a child, that you have felt the grief of that and the horror of that, and still yet she can be so willing to lose you, right? That it possibly reinforces the idea that it is you. That, right? Is that right? Is that true?
I know how I feel losing him and how I'd do anything to have any sort of time back. And you just think, if she just doesn't, she's just not interested, she just doesn't want to have any sort of relationship with me, it must be me that's the problem, because otherwise, why would she not want to have that relationship? Why would she not want to try, and why would she not want to try and reconcile anything? But I've literally not heard anything from her since last April when we last had the conversation. My dad's messaged in and out, but I've not heard anything. Like, she's not messaged at all, except for on my birthday, she put a Facebook post on and tried to tag me in it. That's all I've heard.
This Facebook
she put
thing
a post on Facebook to say happy birthday and tagged me in it.
So it's all outward facing. Look at my beautiful family. Look how proud I am. Look how brilliant a mum I am. Look how brilliant grandparent I am. But actually, it's just an empty barrel.
Yeah.
There's nothing inside it.
And this is what I said. This is like half of what I've said all along, is like, when it comes to, she'll turn up to like my kids' birthday parties, but she'll turn up literally for the time of the party. She won't come before or after. She doesn't want to spend time with us before or after. It's so she's there. I'm the grandma. Everybody look at me and all this sort of stuff. But then she wouldn't offer to help out. She wouldn't offer to stay afterwards and spend some time with the kids because she's not seen them for a while. I'm here for the party because there's a performance to put on.
There's an audience. So she needs an audience. Yeah. So she takes the children to the pub and she comes just for the party time and not do any of the actual supporting. So let's go to your dad and these messages, because I'm conscious that you wanted some resolution around that and how to manage that. So do you want to tell me a bit about what's going on there?
So after I had the conversation with Mum, and I've not spoke since, my Mum and Dad told my sister that they were cutting me out because I'm too difficult. So I just sort of said, fine, whatever, and just sort of left it at that.
How did you find that out from your sister?
Yeah, my sister told me on a phone call.
Right.
So I've just not been in touch. And then it was my son's anniversary of his passing. I heard nothing from them. My mum's birthday the next day. And I removed them from Facebook about a week or two previous because I just kept seeing things pop up and it was just too much. I didn't want to see anything. So I removed them off of Facebook. And then I got a message 2 days after my mum's birthday, so 3 days after his anniversary, after not hearing from them, saying, "What the hell is your problem? I've seen you've sent some messages to your mum. If you've got anybody to be blaming, it should be me. I was the one that left us. I left you in the hard situations. It was my fault. I'm so grateful she took me back." All of this stuff. And then it was signed off. "We're happy you're not. Hope you and your kids have a long and happy life, Dad."
Okay, I'll give my reaction in a minute. What did you feel to that?
I was fuming, raging, and I typed out so many messages and I didn't send any of them. I thought, all it's going to do is I'm going to get drawn back into it, dragged around in circles, or arguing my point, and it's not going to get anywhere. So in the end, I didn't send anything back. But then it's also sort of festered away at me because I feel like I should have said something and I should have tried to justify or explain what was said, because my mum's not actually showed him any of the messages, or she's probably cherry-picked some of the messages that have been sent, not shown what she's said with everything. And as well, because he cheated on her a few times and left. So I think a lot of the time throughout the years, it's always been, he's got the blame because you left us, you did this. And so he just sort of tries to pacify it so he doesn't take the brunt of it. But then I ended up getting the brunt. So yeah, and then after that, I heard nothing. After I didn't reply, I didn't hear anything else. And then me and my sister found out that we're pregnant and we're due within 2 days of each other.
Right.
So I'd said, don't send anything to Mum and Dad. I don't want them to know. It's none of their business. And for me, I think finding out I was pregnant again, I thought, actually, I don't want them to know because they've got 2 others here that they don't care about. They make no effort for. Why does a new one make a difference? Why should it make any difference? And actually, I don't want it to make a difference because then, again, it's just showing that you're doing it so you can post on Facebook that you've got a new grandson, so you can.
Right.
So I said I didn't want them to find out. They've ended up finding out. I don't know whether through her older children or somebody's told them. And then I started getting messages at Christmas on my birthday. They tried to put the post on Facebook, and then my dad sent me a message on my son that passed's birthday, saying how we've got a grandson in heaven and all this sort of stuff and how much it means. And I was like, you've not done anything for the last 5-6 years. Why now? And then Easter, just gone, my sister sent me a message to say that my dad's transferred £20 to me to get the kids an Easter egg. And I was like, why? And she said, so that he just wanted to make sure that they weren't left out. I was like, why now?
They're hoovering.
But again, I feel like it's because they've all almost got this entitlement that they think because I'm pregnant, they should be included, they should be involved. But yet, when I have been pregnant and in the past, they've not wanted to know, they've not been interested.
But did they talk about it on social media?
Probably, yeah.
Did they tell all their friends?
Yeah.
What you have, and I'm done in a very heavily inverted commas, is you've put them in a position that exposes them by being pregnant and them not having any information about it. Because now when someone goes, oh, I heard Megan's expecting, how exciting, what's she having, when's she due, what's blah, 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 do you know any names? They cannot answer those questions. And so that is embarrassing for them because it appears that they're trying to make it look very much like everything is rosy. I'm intrigued that it hasn't flipped now yet already to her being the victim and them being victims and you've cut them off. But I suppose if there's messages, I don't know if that can be disproved. Anyway, the point being, I suspect at some point there'll be, we've got no idea why, we've tried so hard, there'll be all that, if there hasn't already, has there?
I did get a message from my uncle in a family group chat suggesting that I offered an olive branch to them. And I couldn't keep quiet. And I was just like, you don't know the half of it. It's way past olive branches. And I think the other thing that frustrates me, not that they need to know my side, but nobody seems to want to know my side either. They're quite happy to just take her word for it.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
No, go on. What does it tell you?
Either they don't want to know my side or they probably know it but don't want, if they actually find it out, they've got to do something about it.
Exactly. They do know. My suspicion is they do know, but they do not want to dig up the can of worms. They don't want to, stir things up. And then on top of that, I would argue that they probably, well, it's that thing of if they don't ask, they want to believe.
Yeah. And if they don't actually know about it, then they can't do anything about it. Whereas if they know, they feel like they have to do something.
So imagine you don't know anything about me. You don't know me very well. You know me to say hello to, or sort of lightly know me, acquainted, for want of a better word. And I say to you, no, I don't speak to my mum. What would your first question be?
Why? What did they do that makes you want to not speak to them?
So even if I didn't know everything I know and wasn't, just didn't do this as a job. If I did, my response would be essentially, why not? That's really awful. What happened? It wouldn't be, oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a place where boundaries might be like, I'd feel like I'm intruding, but I certainly would never assume that it was because that person is a bad person or, none of that sort of thing. So So that there is no curiosity or query is extremely telling in terms of behavior, because we naturally want to know why. We want to know answers because we want to the reason we want to know why is so that we can protect ourselves from it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So it's why whenever people see like somebody's died unexpectedly, they go, "What happened?" And they immediately want to know because they want to protect themselves. You know, everyone goes, "Oh, it's morbid curiosity." It's not actually. It's self-protection.
Yeah.
But so they just are putting all the responsibility on you. So also in that you can see the kind of family narratives, the family belief systems, that if there is a problem between a parent and the child, it's the child's responsibility to fix it. You have to be a good daughter or a good child. So so then here you are getting these messages from your uncle and also that message from your dad 3 days after the anniversary of your son's death. So aggressive and attacking, justifying, denying, being so it just the grossness of it in itself anyway. But then in a really like zoom out logical point of view place, if again, let's put it back to you, and if you were in a situation where your children weren't speaking to you, how would you reach out to them?
Not like that.
No.
Like you'd want to try and see what you could do to fix it, what you could have, like, you'd obviously apologize, you'd try and like, you'd take the accountability of what you could do and just explain how you never wanted them to feel the way they have. You never meant for that to happen, but what can you do to try and repair it? What can you do to try and work through it? You wouldn't just project it all back onto them and what's your problem? Why are you... Because I'm that message where said you had a normal childhood, and I was like, what's a normal childhood? And you weren't there for half of it, so how can you tell me it's a normal childhood?
So deny your experience, tell you you're crazy, there's something wrong with you, deny that your mother's in any way to be responsible for how she's impacted you, tell you you're not happy, tell you what your feelings are, and actually leave no space for resolution at all. Because actually it sounds a lot like... It sounds like they maybe don't want resolution.
See, that's...
Go on.
So when my uncle sent that message in the group chat, I spoke to my sister, and she said that my mum was really sorry because she didn't know they was going to say anything. And I thought, well, you've obviously been saying enough to them for them to warrant thinking that they need to step in and say something. But she's also said that she doesn't want to make the situation any worse. And I thought, but you're not trying to make it any better either.
Hang on, it was your mother in that group chat?
No, I've not told you this yet. She removed herself because nobody wished her a happy anniversary.
Yeah, I knew it. She flounced, didn't she? Because they weren't attending. So hang on. So they've seen her behaviour when she doesn't get the demands or the attention, and they just continue to enable. So she's surrounded by enablers, including, I'm afraid, I think maybe your sister.
Yeah, she is. Her sister is as well.
Okay. So all of this leads me to ask you, why does your father still have access to you?
He doesn't at the minute. I've blocked him from...
Okay.
Because I didn't want to have that hanging over me, that he could just message me at any point and...
Amazing.
Trigger me and it's then send me into that sort of spiral again. I didn't want that, so I blocked him. I had a look, I thought I'd blocked her, but I haven't, but she won't message anyway, so it's pointless. But I think I did go and block her.
I wonder if it would help you to feel more in control if you were to block her.
Yeah, I did do afterwards. But yeah, I blocked them because I just didn't want them. But then I still have the fear every now and then that they're going to just turn up on my door. But then I think, well, they never used to turn up when we were speaking, so why are they going to turn up now?
Okay. So it seems like there's something about being able to protect and predict by prediction.
Yeah.
So fears that they might turn up. So if they were to turn up on your doorstep, what would you do?
That's the thing. I think that's why I'm always scared of it, because I don't know how I'd react. I don't know how I think I'd almost be scared that they'd try and talk me around and try and talk me back into having some sort of relationship with him. Whereas I know in my head that it's not right, and I don't want it. It's just how to stop it. And yeah, in my heart.
Emotional you is still quite fragile about the resolution. Intellectual you is like, nope, I know this is the right thing.
Yeah.
So how old is the emotional you?
Probably quite young.
Okay. So emotional you is still grieving not having that love.
Yeah.
You know, right earlier on in the session, we were talking about feeling emotions. And you learnt at a young age to cut your emotions off because it protected you.
Yeah.
Utterly. Like really protected you. It protected you from shame, dependency, even from being enmeshed, from being exploited. All the different ways in which you could be harmed.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when we share our emotions with people, we're essentially showing them how to hurt us if they want to, which is a really difficult truth and a really painful truth, not only for as children, but even in adult relationships, that as we get closer to someone, we give them more and more weapons to hurt us with. And some people will use them. And that is an awful, awful thing. But what it feels like or seems like is that you learned to cut yourself off emotionally in order to survive your situation, which was amazing. It did. It made you survive it. But now we've got to a point where these emotions aren't coming out in a regulated way, and instead are exploding out or being so squished down you don't even know that they're there. And maybe they're coming out in different ways. And, you know, I don't know about illnesses or anything like that, but, you know, there was a little smile there. What was that?
No, because I've now been diagnosed with autoimmune disease. So I know that can be linked to stuff like that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, overexposure to cortisol is heavily linked to autoimmune. Right. So the feelings are coming out elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so what that would indicate is processing these feelings, because if they were to turn up on your doorstep and little you isn't in that scared emotional space, it'll be adult you going, no, I don't want you. I don't need you. I've got this, and off you go, please. I'll treat you like any other stranger that turns up on my doorstep and demands to come in and, you know, ring, ring, police, please type thing. It seems like there's a lot of grief to be processed.
I think that's probably where I'm stuck with it at the minute, as in between my head and my emotions, that my head knows it's the right thing. It's just, the emotional me is stuck with, if it can be my fault, I can fix it. I can try and, whereas actually I need to just let myself feel it. And
I wonder how you feel about little you.
I don't really know. I don't know who. I almost feel like I don't know who I am. Like, I remember my daughter asking me what your favourite animal is, and instantly I just said a tiger. But when I thought about it, I thought that's my mum's favourite animal. And everything, like I had a phase where I was like, I don't like pizza, but that's because my mum used to say she doesn't like pizza. And it was almost like I was trying to be something that, like, be the same as her, so that she maybe would like me, would want to be So that now I'm sort of almost trying to let myself just think, actually, now, do you know what? My favourite animal is a giraffe or whatever I want it to be. But for so long, I've told myself it's been a tiger or like whatever the reason, whatever the answer is for the question. But it's always been because it's something she liked or something she wanted to do, rather than it being actually what I wanted.
Which I want to normalise for you. Very normal. And I hate that word, but it's really typical to kind of do that. You mentioned earlier about decision making, and that this is all tied into it. And what we're talking about is a lack of identity.
Yeah.
And so when you grow up in these environments, you're so busy surviving, you don't have time to grow an identity. And so you get to sort of your age now and you go, oh shit, I don't know anything about myself because I was so busy trying to be what they wanted me to be. I never actually got to be who I am.
Yeah.
And so what that then means is real active identity building kind of activities and exercises to know who you are and how separate you are. And with that, when I asked you about how you feel about little you, very often people can feel a sense of disgust or hatred towards their younger self or repulsion because they're colluding with the need to blame young you, and maybe that in not hating our younger selves, we let go of that power, that ability to fix things and face the grief. That if we can no longer blame younger us, then we have to accept that they were the problem.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying that, what's happening for you kind of emotionally?
Yeah, I see that. But I also see almost like a disassociation, as in like I don't recognize, I don't know who I am. I don't recognize, like, I don't know, like you said, I don't know what my identity is, I think I'm struggling with that side of it as well. Not necessarily, I don't even know if I do sort of blame younger me or
Okay, good.
any of that. I just don't have any sort of feelings around it, if that makes sense.
Totally, because you've cut all those feelings off. She's cut them off. She's told you don't feel them, right?
Yeah.
Little you learned not to have feelings.
Yeah.
Including about her. So there could be some really rich work in exploring that, building identity, doing exercises. I'm going to have a course up soonish on identity building, because it's literally, if you build your identity, almost everything else falls into place in terms of boundaries and saying no and self-worth and value and toxic shame and all of those things. As your identity grow, well, your boundaries grow and your toxic shame and negative talk all dissipate to a degree as your identity and value and, it all grows. So, dissipates, whichever way it should be going. You know what I mean. So the number one thing that I'm going to offer you is to start actively looking for identity building exercises. And just as a really initial kind of thing, is everything you do through as you move through the day to day, notice whether you like or dislike it. Rate it out of 10. Is this a strong like or a strong dislike? Or, like, here you go, I've got this pen. This pen is a pen. There's a funny story and it's stupid, but also one of the moments where I met a need for myself that I would never have considered doing prior to therapy. I went to the doctors. They gave me a form to fill in and they gave me a pen. And I wrote with that pen. And I was like, oh, this is a really nice pen. I like really nice pens. I've got a bit of a weird thing about nice pens.
Yeah.
Normally, or no, not normally, but in the past, pre-therapy, Helen would have just given the pen back, never thought anything of it. This Helen went, I want to be able to write with these pens again. So I'm going to take a photo of the name of it and look it up when I get home and order some. And in the drawer behind me, have a bag of about 100 of these pens because I like them. And for anybody who wants to know, it's called a Q Connect 0.4. Don't know, but Amazon. But the That is the sort of thing I'm asking you to do. Do I like the pen I'm writing with? Do I like the color? Do I like what I'm wearing? Do I like the material that I've got on?
Yeah.
Do I like this today, or do I not like? How do I feel about X, Y, Z? Everything that you do, just as you move through the day. And at the end of the day, what did I learn about myself today? Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's looking at things like values and beliefs and what's important to you. Because it won't be that you've got none at all. It's
Yeah.
just that it's been so pushed away for your survival that you're completely disconnected with lots of bits of it. But I can tell you from our conversations, there's a strong sense of justice, I would think. There's fun, care, love. It's important to empower people, and it's important for you, I think, to nurture and respect.
Yeah.
And kindness are important too.
Yeah.
So, and resilience, it seems, and independence and autonomy.
Yeah.
We might need to move that autonomy down a bit.
Yeah.
Dial it down just a touch.
Yeah.
But there is an identity. It's about allowing it and noticing, maybe as you're doing that, how it hurt you to have those things that you pushed away.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Go on.
Because I know, like, when I was probably in my teens, my mum used to she'd have drinks on like a Friday night, and it'd be the only time it'd be me and her in the house, and she'd get drunk and she'd tell me that she didn't like me, women won't like me. If she was in a pub, if she was out, she wouldn't come and talk to me because I'm not the sort of like a nice sort of person, and just things like that. Or she'd try and tell me that I needed to try and get some qualifications behind me because you can't just be pretty face and big boobs, and that's what people see you for. Like, it's like, I like legally blonde and all that sort of stuff. Like, as though she was trying to do me a favour by telling me these things, but actually just beat me down.
Have you heard of me talk about Snow White syndrome? Do you know the story of Snow White? I mean, it's out in the cinemas at the moment. While we're recording. The idea that the stepmother is insanely jealous of her stepdaughter, who is more beautiful, and asks the mirror who the fairest of them all is. And everyone gets the phrase wrong, and I can't remember what it actually is meant to be. But the idea is Snow White syndrome, again, really me just giving monikers to stuff, which is just to describe things. So this is only my own little hypothesis, but it is something that we see a lot in narcissistic mothers, toxic mothers particularly, who are very image-based. And that is, if they have daughters, when the daughter hits puberty and starts developing and becoming attractive and attracting attention, they get very, very jealous. And what they will do is deliberately try and make them look more unattractive. They will do that by haircuts, clothes, not allowing makeup, not allowing even basic hygiene. They might feed and overfeed the child and encourage, weight gain or discourage any kind of self-care around, just basic, even just gym stuff, not, they'll including shaving, waxing, all that stuff as well. They will be very disparaging and shaming of it because they cannot bear the idea that their child attracts more attention than they do. Is that something that you recognize, or is that not?
Sort of. I think she probably used to try, especially like with the feeding side, especially on my sister, and like my sister is quite overweight and always has been, but then my mum she used to sort of like do it. She would go down and she'd take like the fish and chips down to her and stuff like that, where she wouldn't do that with me as such. But so she probably did used to feed my sister and stuff more than she did me. But I don't know if that's because I was older and I was already sort of. I do remember a comment once when I was like young teen saying I wanted to shave my legs because I needed to. And she was like, "Oh, I wouldn't even trust you with a butter knife. You're not shaving your legs yet." So she just wouldn't let me do it. It was more the way she used to talk down to me and talk to me.
Yeah, she was
Um,
destroying your confidence.
and I remember then years later, I was telling her a story about how I was getting bullied at work. And I just said how I had no self confidence, all this sort of stuff. She was like, "Oh, have you not got over that yet?" And I was like, "Yep, the reason I don't have any self
Wow.
confidence, like I say, it was just something that I was going through or whatever, or I don't know, but yeah, I feel more as in the way she used to talk to me, the way she used to
Mhm.
like try and put me down, sort of side of it. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because she couldn't have you being too confident
Mm,
because you would talk back and fight back.
mm,
She'd already seen you do that.
yeah.
You know, we're going to have to come to the end of like the
No,
session,
it's
Megan,
fine.
but there's so much I could keep going
Yeah.
with you because this idea that you were ever the problem in this relationship is so beyond flawed.
Mm,
I can't see anywhere where you have given her reason or just cause to treat you the way that she has. And the
okay.
same goes for your father. What I am going to talk to you about is very briefly the flying monkey coping mechanism. It's
Yeah.
knowing who is safe
Yeah.
and not giving information to people that you do not want printed on the front page,
Yeah.
as in going back to her.
Yeah.
Noticing who is feeding that information back. There was a very clever technique that someone created, which is if you have a photo of something that your mother would want a photo of, a child or whatever it might be, and you're trying to identify who is sharing the information. Essentially what you do is get the photo, and you want 4 copies of it, digital copies. You zoom right in and put the tiniest little coloured dot somewhere, and a different colour for each person. Obviously, make a list of who's got what colour because you will forget. We all have these grand plans that we never will, but we always do. And then send the appropriate colour dot to each person. So these dots are so small that you won't notice them unless you zoom right in and really look for it. And then when the photo is shared or posted on socials, you get to zoom in and see who's shared it. Is one way of knowing who's giving her information. But looking at where where you are maybe holding on to relationships in the hope that it means that you will retain the family fairy tale image thing, you know? Yeah. Have you any questions that, anything that we need to go over before
No, I don't
we
think so.
finish today? You sure?
Yeah.
How are you feeling now?
Better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
I think just
Okay.
talking through it a lot helped.
Good. And I can't validate you enough in it. The way you've been treated is horrible. And before we finish, if you would like to, is there a story of your son that you would like to share that you lost, the son that you lost?
It's hard because he was in hospital for a lot of his life, so it's hard to sort of, because he was so young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of
Attribute a story to him.
Yeah.
What about how he engaged with you or the medical staff, or
He was
colour of his hair?
He was just always so sorry. He was just always so smiling, always so happy. Loved having little books read to him. Yeah, he was just really, really strong, really. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Okay.
Well, on that note, here we are at the end. And, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and exploring all of that with me and being so brave and honest and sharing so much. And again, you're not the problem in this, and you did deserve better. So with that, I guess all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.